The third thing is future of technology. So this is something that I spend a lot of time on, and I can speak hours about this, and I don't want to go on for too long, but I will kind of just look forward, project forward into what we see as happening in the future of technology and where we think the world is going. So the first huge phenomenon is that of 3D printing, which we've all heard about. I believe we've all heard about it. But what does it actually mean? So let's just look at industries and how they're going to completely change after 3D printing. So let's start off with healthcare. So if you can 3D print organs and blood vessels, which actually already has happened, how does that change surgery? How does that change the waiting lists where people wait for these waiting lists to get these transplants, where people have to get cut open to get a kidney from someone else? Imagine if I can just 3D print a kidney. That's amazing, right? And imagine I could 3D print vessels. People are 3D printing contact lenses, eyes. It's completely changed the way we think of healthcare today with 3D printing. Let's look at the jewelry business. So the diamond business is massive, right? You go buy $5,000, $10,000 diamonds. Imagine if I can just 3D print a diamond for $30. How does that change the entire diamond industry? Imagine I have an airplane. Hopefully, I have an airplane someday. But let's say an actual airlines company. They have a plane, and the plane has something's not working in the plane. So they need to get a spare part to fix that problem. Let's say that spare part is on an inventory right now at the airport that they're at. So they need to put a purchase order request, wait 3 months for that part to come. The part comes and it gets installed. Meanwhile, this plane, you're paying parking fees on this plane, right, just to get it fixed. Imagine if I can just 3D print that spare part that automatically fixes it at the site, and I'm there, and I just fix the problem. We've already seen 3D printed cars. Imagine you can 3D print a car in a day, right? And one of the most amazing things in 3D printing, which actually hasn't been spoken about a lot, is how it's changed construction. I believe last year there was an example of a house, an actual house that was built in 23 hours with a 3D printer. You put concrete in a 3D printer and it printed a house. Imagine how that changes the construction industry. Today when you think of construction, you think of 9 months, 12-month cycles. You think of tens of millions of dollars to build these buildings. You think of thousands of people and all these construction and zoning laws and getting everything built. And imagine you just put a printer and in 23 hours you have a house. This has already happened. This has already happened. There's a lot of things that need to take place to allow this to come through. But 3D printing is just completely changing the face of the world. Another example. So today, if you look at the clothing industry, retail, how much money is spent on retail? How much money is spent on clothing? Everyone wears clothes, at least in the US. So imagine if I no longer have to go to a store to buy clothing. All that logistics, all that supply chain stuff, imagine if I just buy a design on my computer. I buy a design and I push print and the clothing is printed. That's 3D printing. Imagine we already have this happening. There was like a woman who did this like 3D printed, like high-heeled, fully customized shoes for women. Everything that's related to retail starts off with women because women buy clothing and guys just like guys are less interesting for the clothing industry because fashion is not as important. But imagine the size of that industry. How will logistics change when I don't need to transport items the way I always have transported items? Let's look at 3D printing food. I'm going to start. This is my last 3D printing example. I know I've bored you guys with that. But let's look at 3D printing food. Today, when you want to buy food, you go to a grocery store, you wait in line, you're really frustrated because everyone's buying groceries at the same time, and you think you're the most important person in the world, and why am I waiting in line, and I should be able to skip everyone else. Meanwhile, everyone else is thinking the exact same thing, that they're the most important person in the world, and why do I have to wait in line? I should be able to skip the line. But the reason is that everyone works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and they have to go grocery shopping afterwards and they hate their lives. But imagine if I could just push print and I print groceries. Imagine if I can put print and I can actually print food. It seems crazy, but this is already happening. There has been an example of an egg that was printed that works. There was an example of meat that's edible. There was an example of meat. It's not meat, but it looks like meat, it feels like meat, but it's actually made out of green products, where it's supposedly 80%, the company's called Beyond Meat, it's 80% as close to real meat that's printed. Okay, so you guys got 3D printing is a big deal. I'm going to move on.